fellow writers, members of Writers Guild, and those who are not members of the Writers Guild. We are back to Script Habits. You have no idea what I got for you right now. I've got the amazing, amazing writers of The Polygamist, and the show is #2 globally. Yay! #2 and non-English show is #2 globally. Let that sink in. So I've got the writer of the book, Sue Nyathi. Amazing Sue Nyathi. Welcome, Sue.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for allowing us to talk to you. And then I have Busisiwe Zwane. Busisiwe, the head writer, who was part of the team that adapted the book. So today we are just talking as writers. That's all I want, is to talk as writers. The adaptation of the book, how did it make it to what we have seen on screen right now? Those who don't know, it's on Netflix, so please continue watching it. Make it #1, please. Make it #1 globally. We need that as South Africa. Yeah. We need that. But I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves. I know that you are all amazing. Just briefly to tell us who you are. I'll start with you, Wusi. I know that I know you. That's maybe. Wusi is like my baby. Yeah. But introduce yourself.
So I'm Busisiwe Zwane, born Busisiwe Matonzi. I'm from Alex. I'm a writer from Gomora. That's where, my roots are from. I studied film and television at the University of Johannesburg. And then very early in my career, I was lucky to meet Bongi Ndaba. My first job was with Isidingo. Started there as a production secretary, and then I moved on to writing. And you know what, Bongi, I never say this enough, but I really owe my career to you. Bongi really pushed me when I was script coordinating. She was like, when are you going to start writing? And I was like, I don't know when I'm ready. She's like, you're ready now, let's do it, And fast forward, look at me. My very first head writing job, actually, the Polygamist, and yeah, I'm just a writer.
Yes, and I love it so much. I used to shout at Busis and Mimi and be like, you guys are lazy. Why aren't you writing?
Yes, Sue. Over to me. So I'm actually very different in terms of my background. I have a finance and investment background. But I always, I refer to myself as a writer by passion and an analyst by profession. So for me, I was always a storyteller. Even as a child, when I was playing, I used to tell stories in my playtime. Yeah. And then when I developed the language and the words, that's when I actually started putting things down on paper. I would cut up pictures from magazines and just write around them, write stories around them. And then it just grew. And I think when I was 13, I wrote my first novel. That's what I called it. It was called Crazy Over Ye. It was a young adult kind of story. 13, we had 13, yeah. It was like a small, A5 exercise book, like a real doll, yeah. And I covered it, and I had a blurb. And the first readers were my classmates. And that's how Sue's books started. So everyone who went to school with me knew me for my books. Like, I was known in high school. That was one I was popular for. Yeah, the story writing. And my books circulated from one high school to another. And so I think already at that, I was manifesting, that's that dream to be a writer. So even though I never went on to study at university, creative writing, it was something that I nurtured. Even long after I finished and got my degree, I continued to write. And when I was working at one time, I was, doing a column called Steaming Off. And I thought of myself as Carrie Jones, because we're the generation that grew up on Sex and the City.
Sex and yes,
yeah. So that's really how, with me, my journey started. And then I used to work a full-time corporate job and write after hours.
Yeah. And that's great. I like the thing that you were writing since you were 13, because I'm also like that. Of like writing. I was acting when I was young. I was fortunate enough to be, today they'll call it the child star. But those days were just like performing all over in back home where I grew up, and but I've always gravitated towards writing. But in my head, in those days, we didn't know that you can make writing a career. I thought I want to act. We see people on TV, and all you want to do, I want to act. But I've always gravitated towards writing. But my writing, opposite to you, was mostly poetry. I was that kid at school when there's writing a poem and stand in the front and assemble and say the poem. I was never ashamed to do that. And I would write my own poems, of course, influenced by poetry that you learn at school. But I like that because most people, they think that, oh, it's good to go to varsity and study. We're not putting that down. But writing is something that you are just born with. It's innate. Because you can't even explain why is it that you want to write. There's no motivation. It's just like me, who just want to write stories. And people, when they feel like that, I'm like, that is the spark that says, I must just write. That says you are a writer, you are a storyteller. But on the other thing, what I love about your books, I mean, there's many other books, many different writers who write books, is that they're very relatable for what's happening in any community. And I'm like, I know that person, I know that mama, I know that lady, I know that baba. Like, it's just stuff that we relate to, not complicated and stuff and whatever, but it's just stuff that we relatable. And I think that also became the biggest, I believe, the success of The Polygamist, because everybody relates, even if it's not in their family. It's somebody that they know. It's an uncle, it's an aunt, it's somebody in the community that they know about. The other thing that I would like to, because it's adaptation, and writers, especially now, because most channels and streamers, they want to do adaptations. What are the challenges of adapting a book? Because now you've read the book. Or first, let me ask, how did Busi, you guys get to The Polygamist? Was it the producers who were like, we've got this book and we want it adapted, or somebody else suggested it?
So, from what I understand, the backstory of it being is that Pepsi's wife reads a lot of Sue Nyathi's books.
Yes.
So she read a couple of them and gave them to Pepsi to be like, hey, I think there's something here, I think you'd like to look at this and maybe adapt it. And obviously, they had previously done The Wife as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and then I just got a call one random day. I was in my brother's keeper room with Abu Nontu, and Tweety calls me and she's like, hey, so we've got a couple of, shows that we're going to do for Netflix. One of them being a book adaptation, which we think that you'd be perfect for, given, the themes that, the book covers. And fast forward, a month later, we then get into the story room. We, after obviously reading the book, page turner, I just remember the first day of us getting into the story room and all of us just going crazy over, debriefing so many books, so many things, scandalized, wow, weeping, so many ideas were flowing. But the interesting thing is we were in a workshop for an entire week, but I think that Friday, we were like, guys, this is not it. This is not our show. After an entire week of workshop, and you can imagine I was shattered, considering that it is my first head writing job.
Yes.
So that whole weekend I was just, I drove home so, shattered.
Yeah.
Why would this? Didn't get. I think it was an overall feeling in the room.
Yeah.
So with what we had come up with, we were like, does it really capture the essence of the book? What we got out of reading the book, coming in on Monday, we didn't get those same feelings from what we had come up with.
Yeah.
And so we all felt like, no, let's go home for the weekend, process, come back on Monday, and start again.
Yeah, and see where
and see where we're at. I was holding my breath the whole weekend thinking, oh damn, They'll probably think I'm not ready. Like, no, we'll try again for something else. But shame, Gugu and Tuli, so graceful. They held my hand throughout the entire process. So we came back on the Monday, we workshopped for another week, and he then came up with what Anthony is enjoying now.
But isn't also that, and I guess for you, Sue, as well, even if you are mostly a pulp writer, which you should come and write scripts now for television and film, you should. Isn't it also that what we do as writers, like sometimes you think, I've got this, and then the following day you're like, oh, this is rubbish. Some like us questioning yourself and whatever. And I feel we're questioning ourselves a lot now because of the scrutiny that you get through social media.
Yeah.
Now social media has made writers like question themselves even on things that you shouldn't. And because maybe that first gut feeling you had, that was the thing. And now you want to change it because now social media, oh, people, what are they going to say? And even channels themselves, like, oh, are they going to like it? They don't like it. They don't understand me. And how do we get over that? Like, to get to a place where you trust yourself and be like, this is it. If they like it, they like it. If they don't like it, they don't like it.
Yeah. So I think with us, with the first workshop, for example, something hadn't hit. I think it's what Shonda Rhimes calls the hum. We hadn't heard the hum. We hadn't found the hum. And we came in that second week, and it's like we had unshackled ourselves. From that first initial cube draft, I'll call it, because we just threw everything at it. And then we had to come back and we're like, let's just tell the story from a place of honesty, because that's what the book gave us.
Yeah.
Let's not think about the frills and the decorations and, everything that you want to throw at it, things that we know as writers. Let's just tell the story from a place of honesty. Yeah. And that's when all of us now started to bring our own experiences as well. Like Jonasi reminded a lot of us about our dads, our uncles. Joyce reminded us of our mothers, our sisters. Dare I say, us even?
Yeah.
And like all of us really brought our hearts into it. And every time we come into the story room, it just felt like therapy.
Yeah.
For a lot of us, 1 minute would be loud. You'd be telling us a story, we'd be laughing, and seconds later, the person's weeping.
Yeah.
And we almost all had to then gather around that person, bring her back, comfort her. But yeah, it just took us back to places in our lives, and our experiences that we had, maybe brushed off.
And that's when you want to touch the hearts of
Yeah.
because that's what we aim for. I mean, it's nice that show looks good. I mean, the wardrobe, the everything.
Yeah.
The things are nice. The aesthetics are good. But the main thing is the story. When it touches the people, it was like, that's what it is.
It had to have heart.
So, Sue, did you want this book to even be a TV series or a film? Did you ever think of it, or you were just like writing a book? But maybe just take us back to you writing the book. Yes.
So I started writing the book in 2010 after the World Cup, which is quite interesting because we're in another World Cup.
You and another and we won last year.
So it feels like we've come full circle in a sense. Well, with the book itself. So, I just started writing then. It was quiet. It was a quiet time. And for me, it was meant to be a light book. It was when I started writing, it was just supposed to be something light, fires. Because for me, writing was a way to distress from my day job.
Yeah.
But I think as I got deeper into the story, it got darker. It wasn't one of those stories where I painstakingly plotted.
Yeah.
I just let the characters, carry the story. And there's some really dark and tough parts in the book. And I remember when I was watching the series, I was like, hey, should I write that's it. To go back in the book. And it was there. And I actually then had to even ask myself, what was I thinking? But I remember at the time, I wasn't going through anything. So I think sometimes subconsciously, a lot of things that you are also carrying
Yes.
come onto the page. Yeah, and I think a lot of the times, we live through wounds. We write
Yes.
through our wounds, and sometimes, the trauma. Writing is cathartic, even in that sense that
Very much.
you're pouring out your art. And so a lot of things probably came out subconscious as I was writing the story.
Yeah.
And, that's how, because now when you look at it, I mean, I think of Jonasi as a character. I mean, Jonasi typifies a narcissist.
Yes.
But I didn't even know that word. Like,
At that time.
didn't know. Now it's part of our everyday lingo, right?
Yeah.
We know what, we can put a term to it, but I didn't know it then. So I'm saying a lot of things we probably experience, but you don't know.
But you still made him, even in the books, as much as you hate what he does, but you made him lovable.
Yeah.
Like how was that? Like there was kind of like, even me reading, talking from the book, the empathy that you feel for the character. You even blame yourself because you wanna excuse him and be like, oh, he's doing this because, and you're like, why am I excusing this person who's horrible?
Yeah, because in a sense, Jonas is also a victim of circumstance.
Yeah.
He didn't grow up with love. He wasn't loved. Yes. But we expect him to love and give love. How do you give something you don't even know or they experienced? So as much as he's a villain, he's also a victim of his own story. And I think also when I write these characters, I actually embody them. I become Joyce's story. I become Melindani. That's why I can write them without judgment. And you're right, Bongi, when you say people did love Jonas.
Yeah.
I mean,
I know.
and he was not ball pants. That's the thing.
No.
Because why would we be all attracted to Jonasis? Because there's an aspect of them, or we see the kind good part, and they kind sometimes. They can be loving, they can be romantic before they switch it up. So that's what calls people in. But someone will say, but why are you with this man?
Yeah.
Because you see glimpses of what could be,
Yeah.
And also a lot of Janasis are in pain and they use sex,
Yes.
and it's beside and hey, that's
It is like they use alcohol.
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm saying. As much as he's a villain, he's also a victim.
But I think that for me was a great thing. And I'm going to go to you, Busi. How did you guys translate that? Because these days, people I really want to commend you guys. You wrote a villain who was lovable, which is always a winner. Yeah. Because most in TV shows now where you see, people just want to make a person a villain. They kill people. And I always asked, how many people is this person going to kill before we are tired of them? Because we're going to get tired. Like, guys, a villain needs to be loved. And you guys did that extremely well, because as much as I was judging him, there's moments where he was with his son, and I'm like, oh my God, that is a dad. There's moments where with his brother, that is a family man. There's moments even with his wife, even with Joyce, where you're like, yeah, these people are each other's love.
Yeah.
You want them not to separate, not to divorce, you want that for them. You have that feeling. You are rooting for that. But then Jonas goes and does something else, and you're like, Jonas, I thought we are getting better. But I'm just saying, for you guys, was that something that was, from the book, I get that, but you made it so clear in a way that this is why people are connecting. Mm-hmm. It's because it was written from heart of like, do understand him, even if you're not making his trauma the story, but this person has different sides to him. Yes. Did you guys, was the thing that was discussed that to be done in? Yeah.
So it definitely was intentional, and we had to be mindful of that, right? But I like what you just said, that you see him with the son and you're like, oh, he's a dad. You see him with the brother and you're like, oh, he's a bro, he is, and we see him with Joyce and we're like, oh, he can't be a good husband. And how we even got to that place is we were drawing from our own experiences, like I said, of our dads. In as much as they were flawed, and they made their own mistakes. But there were moments where we appreciated them for being our dads.
Yeah.
They were not just the cheater.
Yeah.
They come back home and you're like, oh, this is my dad. I can relate to him in that sense. And then again, there's the other side to the coin where they are very flawed, and it's because of a number of reasons. Their backstory, how they grew up, challenges that they meet along the way. Life, business, work. That certainly can make you become into something you were not. So I think that is what helped us create this character in this sense, because we're able to appreciate that even though Jonas is our dad or your man,
Yes.
there is something that drew him to you. Like you were saying, Lusu, you didn't just wake up and fall in love with a narcissist, they didn't show you they were narcissists. The first day you met them and you were like, with my eyes wide open, I'm going in there.
And they do genuinely love. Because I believe that he loved Joyce.
Yeah.
He's, he needs the flaws that would come and disturb that.
Exactly.
The other interesting part for me was the children, because I thought it was written very nicely how each child was affected by the chaos
Yeah.
in a different way. If you take Ace's child, she was ending up,
Yeah.
but in a very quiet way. And I love that it wasn't the typical, when we say a troublesome child,
Yeah.
they busy drinking, they doing drugs. Because those are all the difficult children in our TV. They're drinking, they're doing drugs, they're doing. It was in a very silent way. And for me, I felt that was very impactful because it was believable, where a child would act up, but in their own silence. Even the rudeness, she would say something very rude to the mother. Even you'll be like, this quiet child, and also even Joyce's children who were affected by their mom not walking out, which is also young people. They just, like you said, people just say, why don't you leave him?
Yeah.
So the children were feeling like that because they are
Easy. Yeah.
like, just go. Why are you with him?
Yeah.
They're not understanding that there's many other layers. So writing the children, which for me, really touched me more than anything else, because it showed also even to people, I hope people who are watching it, like, you are the picture to your children.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what you say with your mouth. Yeah. You are the picture, because if you do things a certain way, that's what they see. Was that the thing that you guys will like? Let's focus on the children and let's write them different. I just love that they were written differently.
Yeah.
I mean, Joyce's daughter was very different to the son. The son was very internally angry and going to aggressive, but then pulling himself back. You could see the boy struggling for real. Yeah.
Yeah, so with the children, we definitely had to map out each of their journeys. With Umenzi, for example, I remember even Sue said in one of her interviews, we had to collapse his older brother and his character into one. Whereas initially we did have the older brother, yeah, and then we felt like, too many of them, it's gonna lose focus. So let's take that other character and sort of collapse him into this one character. And I think that made him even more layered, because what we got from the one character and what we got from him, we now got in one character. And freedom as well. A lot of people don't talk about freedom, and I understand that he's not Jonas's child per se, but just look at how his life turned out and how Essie's choices, because of the man that she's in love with, how he affected that freedom and affected him.
So, Busi, coming to you, like, how do you feel about writing at this moment? Because now we're global. And Polygamist is global. But also the world is just global. It's very easy for a South African show to just be successful anyway now. It's not like before where it was closed in. How do you feel, and where do you want to see writing? Now talking to even people who are listening to us right now who feel like they are writers, who want to be writers or who are already writers who haven't put their stuff out there?
Yeah. So I think I feel two ways, right? Number one, I think it's a very exciting time for us, especially now with vertical dramas growing as well. I think it's also nice just looking at what Chris Q did with his
movie.
with his movie.
Yeah, putting it on Kyosu.
Putting it on
You did an amazing job.
It did so well. So
Talking about Triscu, what I like about it is that it's removing the still doors. Because that's the other thing that we face as writers that people don't know, that there's the still doors of the people who say yes to you. And then they tend to tell you how to write your story. Yes. Chris Q was an example of, I'm writing my story and I'm doing it my way.
I'm doing it my way. I want to tell it the way I want to tell it in its honest way without, editorial voice.
All of that in and confusing voices, because sometimes they're confusing. Like, what do you want me to do?
So excited in that sense that the world has certainly opened up for us writers. You don't necessarily, yes, we still want to work, in the big story rooms. We want to work for the big channels and have your work distributed in that
big platforms. That's nice. I cannot lie about it. We want our income.
Yeah, definitely. You want to be established in that sense, definitely. But as well, I think we ourselves as writers need to challenge ourselves and push ourselves to start writing our own stuff, shooting our own stuff, and putting it out there. We have the platforms these days, so you don't necessarily now have to wait for the green light, to wait for the yes. You can just put together industry people, come together, put something great like Chris Q did. And I think that's for all of us to look at and as an example and say it's possible. We also can do it. These days you can even shoot off your phones.
Yeah.
They give such great quality. So I think exciting in that sense, especially because now as well budgets are being cut, as we all know.
Oh my God.
It's always getting harder and harder to just get into story rooms.
Oh my God.
I think we just need to be brave.
And that's important what you mentioned about budgets being cut, which is especially for development. First of all, it's not only budgets being cut, it's the time for development.
Yes.
Where it has become shorter.
Yeah.
And it's difficult to I always say to people, you don't know what you're going to be thinking tomorrow as a writer. Nobody plans like, oh, I'm going to be thinking this. This is what I'm going to be thinking. Because like you said, when you guys got into the room, there was a whole week you brainstormed. And then after that Friday, you felt like, it is not all rubbish. It's not because it happens. And that
development takes
time. But if you have that time, you will go again and be like, okay, let's look into what we've done. Why are we not happy with it? Yeah. But when you don't have the time, you are under pressure. You don't even have the time to go and look at that and be like, and that goes with cutting the budgets. And the first budgets that get cut, I don't know why, is the writing budget.
Yeah.
Everybody just comes for the writing budget. And then the time gets shorter. And also the shocking other thing is the fact that the money that I used to earn 15 years ago is still the money I earn today. That is shocking. And I'm like, in which job, guys? Where I still earn the same money I used to earn 15 years ago. Like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's
like, what is going on with the industry?
Yeah.
It's that we become the unseen people as writers. Unseen. And it's like, oh, a writer can just write. I always say the thing of like, they put you in a cupboard and they're like, Togono say write. And then give me the thing, and then I'm gonna do it, and then go back to your cupboard and write again.
I just wish we all had the luxury Netflix afforded us on the Polygamist, because we had, I think, 12 months. We ended up doing 14 because we added an extra 2 episodes.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So it was initially going to be 20 episodes, and then we added another 2 episodes. Because we thought it was too fast paced and we needed to just like ease it out a little bit. But we wrote for like 14 months, 22 episodes. That was wonderful.
Amazing.
That is amazing.
I would love it if I'm well.
Oh my
for
God.
14 months.
We had the
There's no way you can't have a good show after that.
that's why I see.
That is why. No, we have to say that again. Development of 14 months
Yeah.
gets you number 2 globally.
Yep, whoop.
And I think, it's important to emphasize story is king. Yes, there would be no show without a story.
Oh my goodness.
Story is king. You could have the great actors, but if there's a bad story, it's not good.
And we're not disrespecting actors.
And I undermine writers. And I think you're lucky because you had source material to build on.
Yes.
And actually, it was starting from scratch.
And yeah, I think writing must come to the fore. Writers need to be respected. Writers need to be remunerated fairly. Writers need to be given, their recognition.
Yeah.
I emphasize on that. Writers needs to be paid well. It's very, and you guys have proven it, Polygamist. And I'm not putting
And also because the check was good.
Yeah, the check has to be good. And I'm glad that Nexus came a good check. But I always say, in South Africa, when people are like, South African writers, I'm like, do you know, we are the best writers? Because those international writers write on another level. Yeah. They write on a level of I have 20 months to develop.
Yes.
And that 20 months comes with the money. It's not like I'm broke for 20 months whilst I'm writing. No, I have the money to continue writing in that 20 months. And that is exactly what we need. In that 20 months, I still develop. But if I'm going to develop for 1 month and then you already have TX, it's going to come on screen in 2 months down the line. Of course, people are going to get my first vomit. Because as writers, we have the first vomit.
Yeah.
And then you go and you let's look at it again. Or you take a break.
And walk away.
Yes, you may walk away.
And do something else. And come back to it.
And come back to it and be like, And then what we see in South Africa is first drafts.
Yeah.
And then when people start complaining, and I'm like, I wish you can just have empathy for writers in this country.
Yeah.
We do not have time for a second draft or a third draft or a whatever. Or let's just relook the concept. Even before we get to script. Is this concept working? Let's just analyze the concept itself. Is it working? Is this idea can be really a full telenovela?
Yeah.
Or is it just a drama? Because I've seen telenovelas where I watch and I'm like, this thing should be a drama. This thing should have been a 26-parter. But now it's stretched into a place where you are just writing everything. Those are the things that we really need to work on in our country. But we can only work on in partnerships with the people who give the money. Yeah. They need to understand, a writer can't just come out. I mean, it happens sometimes where you just come out with something brilliant.
Yeah.
That's once in a while. We're like, wow, I just came out with something brilliant. But most of the time we have to work at it and work at it and work at it. And then it becomes brilliant. But now I'm going to get to the point where you guys must put a shine on you. Because this is the other thing that happens. Actors always get a shine because they're actors. They are on screen.
Yeah.
Everybody sees them and everybody knows about them and everybody's going to talk about them. For me, I wanted you guys so that we'd talk about you guys because you've done an amazing job. Thank you, Sue, for a great book that everybody from 2012 wanted to turn into a film. Even if it didn't happen at that time, it has happened.
Yes.
It's the right time because it's always the time. And it landed in the right hands. That's what it was needed, is that it landed where it's supposed to land. But I just want you guys to just praise yourselves. I'm going to start really praising you. I'll start with you, Bosi, because as you said, Isidewo as a script coordinator. And I'll tell you why I wanted to push you guys. I've always had this thing because we were the first Black head writers in the country because our industry before 2000s, it was mostly written by white writers, even if it's Black stories. So we were the first ones who came in. And even at that time, for me, I've always feel, and I've said this to you many times, I want you guys to be the ones who are taking it over. And then there's be the next one.
Yeah.
Because I always worry that a show will have that Black head writer. And then after that, who takes over? Because I'm not going to be writing when I'm 75 and meeting deadlines. That's not going to happen. I'm going to be writing my novels, sitting at home, and, chilling. And we want to pass it on. And in that passing on, we get so many challenges. Because and with the industry changing and changing and changing all the time. But writers get defeated. They put themselves down because, like I say, we're the unseen people, we're behind the scenes. They put themselves down that they don't even get the praise. Like, here's the Polygamist, the actors, of course, shining right now, but you want to say, where are the people who are sitting in their room putting those scenes together, not sleeping? I know you're sleeping. You're not sleeping. And also getting notes from producers, getting notes from channel. And then those people are like, no, we don't understand it. And you have to figure it out. How do I make everybody happy? For me, this is the main thing for this, is that you guys, you are the first people. Writers get a blank page. Sue, you had a blank page. And you thought there wouldn't be a Jonas.
Yes.
How is that Jonas?
And now people are Jonas.
And now people are Jonas saying, "Call boy from the world party." There was a blank page. There was a blank page. And I would love to, personally, I would love that, even if it doesn't happen in my time, South African writers that are given respect by their own people in the country, just like they give respect to your Shonda Rhimes, to your Ava DuVernays, to your whoever who is writing in America. I wish that we could get the same respect and the same honor, because, we do a lot.
Yeah.
We do a lot. Where you are writing and deleting and writing and deleting, you're editing, and then until something goes and you're like, this is it. This is it. So I just want you guys to praise yourself, because I'm really praising you. You guys have got not only South Africa, have gotten the world. I see on social media people that we don't even know in America and other countries talking about, my God, I've just watched this day. And that is you guys. It's you. For me, really, it's about celebrating you, celebrating writers, and letting the people out there that we are the people, we are the writers out there that give the stuff that the DOP takes pictures, and then the director says, this is how it's going to happen. The producer says, it must look like this. The actor goes and extends that character that you've created. So please praise yourself.
No, definitely. No, thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah. The reception has been so amazing, so humbling, so shocking even. I think we walked away from the project feeling really good about it. So I think in our heart of hearts, we're like, it's going to land. South Africans are going to receive it well. They're going to love it because we loved it. To get both to us. What we did not anticipate is
The
global reception. My goodness.
Global reception. Wow. You did that, Bus. Say that. I did that. I want you to say that, because we must know how to say that. I did that. Sue, that young girl, 13, writing on the papers, exercise book.
writing on pen and paper.
Pen and paper on an exercise book.
Yeah.
And now it's global.
Well, it's look.
Everybody now knows Sue Nyathi.
They know Sue Nyathi, they're looking for my books. So for me, it's absolutely amazing. It's put me on the map.
Yes.
I mean, for most, not just me, because most writers in Southern Africa who are writing books, we are ignored. Yeah, we don't get the visibility that writers who are published overseas do.
Yes.
So, most African writers who are published overseas, their books traveled out.
Yeah, but they come to us. We how many international books that we've read? European writers, American writers,
African writers,
more than African writers.
Yeah.
Yes.
So our work really travels up. So, now my work will travel up. People will know. So the door is open, not just for me, Everyone who's writing in obscurity in Southern Africa and who's not given the recognition they deserve.
And I love that. Love that. All those children who are writing right now in an exercise book,
Yeah.
on that exercise book, you are doing amazingly. And also what I write, I love, guys, and this must travel to every young writer, Black writer, anyone, even older writers, is the fact that the Polygamist has proven that African stories can travel, one, but also we don't need to write our African stories like they're American. We don't need to make them like the European. Let's write us as we are. Thank you very much for joining us for Script Happens of Writers Guild. And I thank Sue Nyathi, the writer of The Polygamist, and Busisiwe, the head writer, who adapted the book into a TV series. And you can see it on Netflix. And writers out there, those who want to be writers, those who feel they're writers, please join Writers Guild. This is a place of networking. This is a place of where you connect with other people and learn about the industry and see what is happening in the industry. So please join Writers Guild. Go into the website and look it up and sign the form and join us. Thank you so, so much. And The Polygamist, #2, globally, going to #1. Thank you and bye.